Hi, I'm Michelle. This is my so-called handmade life. I have a blog by the same name, and there's a Ravelry group for my so-called handmade life. I'm mamatronic on Ravelry and my so-called handmade life on Instagram. It's been a while since I've been here, and I'm gonna have to rush. I decided last minute to do this today because so much has been happening. I've been sick for weeks, and we've been doing some remodeling in our home. Basically laying more substantial flooring is what we've been doing. Nothing super exciting, but I'm actually really happy about it because it looks so much better. And it feels better to walk on. It feels more substantial. And this is a waterproof vinyl plank, so it's better for what looks like an area that could flood again. So anyway, we've been really busy with that, and all of Mother's Day weekend is going to be about floors. Yeah! I'm actually really excited about that though. And then my son-in-law is graduating, and I don't know what my schedule is going to be like because of that. I'm just really, really happy for him. He's worked so hard, and he and my daughter married while both in college. Could be hard to navigate, moving, new school, new jobs, all of it. He has just handled, they both have, but I'm really right now focused on him and his accomplishment with school, working so hard and making such good grades. So let me get right to it. I appreciate all of your suggestions about my wrists. I put a lot of it into practice. Louise recommended wrist widgets, which I did not buy. I meant to. And then I just decided to do nothing with my wrists because my braces were bothering them. But I have them in my Amazon cart. I let my budget turn over, so they're in my cart, and on payday I'm going to get them. I have budgeted amounts for this and that, so I'm sticking with that. We stick with it pretty well. And then several of you have mentioned, I'm going to look at your comments here. Jen had said that you moved to sewing when your wrist bothered you, or your elbow actually. And Brooke went to crochet and even taught herself continental to give her wrists a break, which I also did during a summer sweater knit along one year. I knit my Ease pullover by Alicia Plummer fully continental, and that was a great experience. I'm very good at continental knitting stitch. Purl, not so much. I appreciated those hints. Sarah Jane is stretching and does yoga, things like that would stretch out her wrists. And she said sleep is important, which I know is important, but I don't really think about sleep with a strained muscle like my wrist, strained whatever, tendons, joints, ligaments. I wouldn't think of that, but absolutely, that's when all your repair happens, so it's very important, and that's a great reminder. Thankfully, I have been working on my sleep for a while now. Kia had said that alternating knitting and spinning, so again, kind of cross-training worked for her. Nancy said stretching, really important, exercises like that. Ada said that varying the needle sizes and lengths helps her because she knits all through the winter for her market in the summer. And making sure the project doesn't pull your hands down, propping up your elbows and underarms with pillows and things. And there's a lot of picture tutorials of stretches and things to find on Pinterest. Virginia said that strengthening exercises on top of stretching has helped her, and acupressure. Sherry said that arnica lotions, or with MSM, rubbing them in every day, but 3 or 4 times when she's sore. Also, Dyeworks is a good recommended brand from her. She uses a pencil eraser to press in, to kind of do some acupressure to the sore spots, and she just presses until it releases, which it totally works, like with my chiropractor and my spine and neck. So it's a good idea, though. The eraser can really get in there, and you don't have to strain so hard to press, with your other hand, especially if both wrists are giving you trouble. Thank you for that recommendation. Jay Shri said that to take it easy, make sure I rest now so I don't regret it later. That she had to rest from tennis elbow like 4 years ago. It was pretty bad from working in crochet, and this she never really, it got better after like 6 months, but it took even longer for it to really go away. So she's like, take care of it now, don't let it get worse. I thank you for that. I read that a couple of weeks ago when she left the comment, and I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I really backed off of everything for several days. Frau K had said that there's lots of yoga stretches, and I could probably find some easy segments that would help this issue online. And I appreciated that. And Christine had said that just backing off completely from knitting helped her with her elbow. She actually had to get cortisone shots too. So I appreciate all of your advice. Since I realized it was the grabbing, the clenching, and the pulling of weeding and of pull-ups from a higher level, I just let it rest totally. I just strained ligaments and things. And that tells me that the inner workings of my wrist weren't strong enough for that activity. I was pushing an activity. Like I could make my joints do it, but I didn't have the appropriate muscular strength. So for that, things like if you have like a post, a door frame, anything you can hang sideways. So like it's like hanging. Just hanging will strengthen you. But if that's even too much, sideways, just kind of leaning while you hold on to something can strengthen. That's just if you're interested in being able to do that kind of activity. Eventually I am, and I don't need to rush something. Just because I once did it with ease doesn't mean I'm going to always do it with ease or be able to again. So anyway, then I got hit with a cold that lasted and lasted. All that dust from moving furniture around and going through old papers. I'm so excited though about the organization I brought to my house. Use of areas I didn't have use of before. Here's the one project I did work on this whole time. I didn't want to worry about gauge, so I didn't touch my Umnia sweater or my Guthrie or my Floozy. And Floozy, because it's on like size 1 needles, I didn't want the strain of that. These are 4s, size 4s, and it's Dirty Lace by Libby Johnson. And I love this. I put a picture on Instagram. It matched my picnic blanket. I didn't even know it would when I went outside to work on it. I've been sitting out in my garden on the weekends when I can, just getting some sun and kind of hiding from the dogs. They can't get all over me. I do open the gate and let them in. But these are Madelinetosh Toshmo light colors. Pink Clay Optic, Fog, Wildflowers, and Fur Wreath, which is one of my favorite colors. And it's now one of those discontinued colors from her. Anyway, I didn't worry about gauge. It's a lot looser here at the bottom. And I'm much more on gauge as I got closer to finishing. In the last few days, I've been able to knit just about a normal amount. I'm not going to push it. I'm not going to go overboard. The break from knitting has been good for me in that I did do a lot of organizing. I couldn't work on the house as much as my husband because it was aggravating this asthma-like thing, whatever, in my lungs, but I could do all the organizing so that everything is livable. Also, this was kind of a one-person job. Like, how sometimes small spaces, too many people working is actually more trouble. So, anyway, that worked out well. I finished my sweater, and I still don't have the ends woven in. I'm horrible, y'all. I used you guys to do this knit along so that I would finish my idea for a sweater. I did it. I love it. I love the fit of it. But I have to weave in ends, and I want to write up a pattern. And I told you if you participate in the knit along, you will get the pattern free if I do charge for this pattern. And of course, if I don't bother sizing for lots of sizes, you'll definitely get it free because, it'll definitely be free because, who wants I don't know. Some people do one size patterns, but I don't think I would do that. I'm excited about doing that, but I lost steam on it with the illness and the busyness of, our house was in disarray, and I also just got kind of down reading on Instagram, squabbling between designers and different people. I just felt like, okay, enough is enough. Instagram has started to feel like Twitter. I'm not Twitter. I'm not on Twitter. Like the news for me. I need to be informed, but at the same time, I can't handle too much in one day, or it's really distressing. Like emotionally, it's yeah, like knitting is therapeutic. Instagram is no longer therapeutic. It was for me. It was a visual stimuli that was just really artistic. It was kind of like what I got off of Flickr or like a 500 pics type site, but it was more aimed toward an instant feel, so a little more about daily life. And so I learned a lot about people. I made connections with people because my daily life involved knitting. I did a lot of that sharing. Then it became a commerce site, and it felt like commerce was driving it. There was less communicating among people. To me, it seemed more about commerce. And of course, my people I was following grew all the time, and so maybe I'm not developing those relationships as much because I'm spreading myself so thin. But now it feels like it's very much social awareness, and I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying, like the news, I have to limit it because it's I've learned a lot from it, so I don't regret what I've learned. But when I see people crossing a line and being kind of mean to one another, that's a little much for me. I was talking to my husband about a book he read a few years ago called So You've Been Publicly Shamed, because a lot of what I'm seeing feels like it's moving into just trying to shame people. Like when we're talking about pricing of patterns, I just don't know that destroying someone's business or public shaming is really the way to go. And I see people saying really spiteful things, or a screenshot of someone saying something spiteful to someone, ha, you're not so successful, and just ugly stuff. Don't we all have enough family dysfunction to keep us busy with those thoughts? I'm going to have to take breaks from it. Just like a lot of you had to do to avoid overspending because Instagram became the place to buy for a knitter. So I asked my husband about that book, and he said one thing that stood out was the subject of the shaming was usually someone who was perceived as having a lot of privilege, usually wealth. It made them a target. People had these ideas that they were better off than they were, even when they weren't wealthy. The idea would spread, the lie would spread, and it was like, well, they deserve it and they'll be fine. They'll land on their feet. But it wasn't always true. Their lives were ruined and they weren't wealthy to begin with, and they certainly weren't after they lost their job. Another thing was that a long time ago, public shaming was something a community did and judged for itself for people that lived within the community. They live with each other, they see each other face to face regularly. When you public shamed someone, you saw the effect it had on their kids, their spouse, everything. And then I think typically the community would accept them back in the fold after a shaming. So that's not happening on social media. So I went and I looked up that author. He had a TED Talk and I just watched it. I'm not going to read the book. But he brought up some thoughts that I'm wondering what you think about this. And now I'm not talking about that I didn't want the discussion on racism to happen, because if you've watched my episodes, you know I absolutely did. I've learned a lot. I have been able to put things into practice since learning it, and I wanted that insight. I'm grateful for it. And understanding, I knew I had white privilege, but I don't think about it a lot. It's on my mind more, and I think it should be, and I'm glad for that too. So a lot of good has come from that. And thinking about lower income and how race falls, how the race discussion is part of that. All good, good, good. I'm not complaining about that. I do think that things employed by all sorts of different people with different perspectives, and this and the talk about the pay for designers and test knitters and all of it, representation, it's no one point of view I'm talking about. It's just different things I see here and there that really turn me off. That's what I'm talking about. So don't read in. You're not going to find some person, aha, she's talking about this. You won't find that in here. It's mostly people I've never heard of ever that I saw say things that were disappointing to me. But it still was disappointing. So, one of the things the author talks about, he gives an example of a woman who made a joke that was mocking racism, but it came across to some people as racism in itself, and it destroyed her life in a matter of hours. First it's outrage and shock, and then people saying, hey, this is an important issue. If you want to make a change, do this. And they have these good groups you can join, things you can do to make a change. But then the lies set in about her. Well, she's rich. She has this, she has that. Let's get her. And then the cruelty, like wanting harm to her, wishing she were raped. That's really, really far. And I haven't seen anything like that on Instagram in my feed. But it's an extreme example. I have seen people wishing people harm. And I thought about what I discussed with my husband, how if these were people we knew and we saw the effect that public shaming had on their kids or their income, a family barely getting by, and they depended on that income, and it's gone just like that, would we be quite so zealous? I mean, are we changing hearts and minds, or are we getting some extra digs in? I just think we need to think hard about it. He also said that there's this power that comes with Twitter, say, was a way for the voiceless to have a voice, and this shift of power kind of happens really fast, and it goes to people's heads. Like they get they might go too far to get someone, and often the thing they're going after someone for, this is his wording, was a perceived misuse of privilege. So that's what so many crimes are, right? Misuse of privilege. But do we have a sliding scale here? Do we want to go after every misuse of privilege with the same veracity? His concern was that people are losing the ability to distinguish between serious transgressions and not so serious transgressions. So like, for instance, this woman's joke, when I read her actual Twitter quote, I could tell she was mocking a white supremacist attitude. She didn't have that attitude herself. I still wouldn't have made the joke because it was about AIDS victims. It was not funny. But shows like The Simpsons don't do it all the time, and they get a pass. Late night talk show hosts, I hear them say things all the time, and I think if I were to say that, oh man, that would not go over well, and I wouldn't want to say it. But they get away with it, and so why some people get away with it and others don't? Perceived privilege? Easy target? I don't know. It's worth thinking about, though. Are we losing our capacity to distinguish between serious and not so serious transgressions? And he said that, there's an approval aspect to this mutual approval machine of Twitter, where we get approval, we get likes, we get followers. We think in a pack, and then we want to distinguish ourselves from what we see as bad, someone different from us. And so there's an idea of getting approval, an idea of distinguishing. We are different from this person. So different we're going overboard to make them look like very sinister. Possibly we could go overboard. I don't know. All of these were really good thoughts. I just wrote down some things like this perceived power. What is it? Is it 2,000 followers, 10,000 followers, lots of likes, fame or fortune? Is it just because you get a lot of likes, that doesn't mean, or you sell something expensive, it does not mean you're actually breaking even. And he also made a comment, are we going to hold ideology over the human being? And his thoughts were, I think the human being should come first over the ideology. So I just thought that was interesting. He said it's getting to a point where social media surveillance is at this point where the smartest way to survive is to remain voiceless. Whereas it was exciting at first that everyone had a voice. I would hate to see that happen. So, I don't know. It was a lot to think about. I just never know when I'm going to be on the wrong side of an issue, because all of us, we may be able to check all the boxes about racism, say. Just, I don't want, like, all your comments, please don't make it about whether or not racism should have been discussed to me, because I think it's fine and it should have, and I'm glad it was. Especially when people gave their stories. I learned from them, and that's why I liked Instagram in the beginning, for the personal glimpse into people's lives. Not so much for the news, but that wheel always turns, and one day I might be on the wrong side of an issue. Everyone, even if they can check all the boxes, they are not this thing, they are not that thing, or they are this thing or are that thing, all the good things, the things we call the good guys. There is some area where each of us are one of the bad guys. We are all screwing up somewhere. I turn off this camera and I walk and I yell at my kid, or I am lazy about something, and I, don't take proper care of a pet, or I am not kind to a neighbor, or I don't notice something that I should, or I have bitterness against a relative, or, I mean, we all have something. And would we want to be judged this way? I wouldn't. I just want to try to be toward other people, whatever grievance I might have against them, the way I would hope I would be treated, maybe gently, when I do wrong. A lot of people have absolutely done this, even in conversations like racism, but not everyone has. And I just think, it's worth thinking about. Are we losing our ability to tell when something is seriously wrong or not so serious? And are we jumping to controversy because we are becoming addicted to the controversy daily? I feel like people on Twitter, a lot of people are addicted to the heightened controversy. Some people are. I know they are, because I hear it. And on Facebook, I know some people like that too. Others, no. So, I don't know. I'm not. And I personally need a break from the stress. And I wondered, and that's my question for you this week, how do you limit your social media for stress? Because now, maybe it was like this for you already, but in my feed, I wasn't seeing, I was seeing disappointment, I was seeing anger at things, even political things, but I wasn't seeing people chewing and gnawing at one another so much, and now I am. And so, how do you deal with it? And it's not like something I can always see, I'm going to avoid. Like, sometimes it's unexpected places. I wondered what your personal rules for its use of stress and social media are. Maybe we've already talked about this before, but I just thought it was worth discussing. So, and like I said, don't read anything in. There's, nothing really to read in. So, that shawl's all I've worked on. I have Guthrie started, barely. I have most of one side of Umnia finished, but then I took a break because of my wrists. And I have 2 socks that are right at points I can't work on during movies. So what am I going to do during this movie? Maybe my wrists are okay to do floozy. I thought I might do Ready Player One, this self-strapping colorway by Mustache that I got at DFW. But And she's doing a read-along right now, and I want to read the book. I started the second book in that Wool series by, that Silo series by Hugh Howey, but I could set it aside for Ready Player One, because I'd like to do this knit-along, but I don't have time to wind it up before the movie tonight. So let me just show you guys something a friend, Sarah, who's Needlework Ravelry on Instagram, was doing some dyeing experiments, and I saw this yarn and said, oh, that's so beautiful. And later she messaged me, she wanted to send it to me. She thought it made her think of me. I think this is the very skein I was saying was so beautiful. Isn't this great? And it makes me think of the colors in that self-striping Michelle colorway. So you've got like a dusty blue and purplish color into a faded mauve or red. It looks, the colors are not like striking high contrast. They are soft and subdued. They make me think of something thrifted and well-loved and worn. I love it. Thank you, Sarah, so much for this. And so now my plans are upset. I need to knit a one skein shawl. This is like yeah, this is going to be nice. I'm going to have to come up with a shawl pattern for this. I'm not going to make something up because I want to do it soon. I'm going to use it. You know, I really liked that grotine. I might just do it because I think this would look really neat knit up in that. Or maybe change grotine so that it's a scarf. I'd like to see what a slightly thinner long scarf in that linen stitch would look like with this. So I might do that. Another thing I have set up to do for summer, by the way, I'm wearing my Lady Bat from Teresa Gregorio. This was a holland knit sweater, and I might do a photo. I'm not going to bother standing up because you won't even see the bottom. It's too squished in here. I like this neckline. It's kind of raw. It's a side-to-side knit, and it was in a holland knits issue. A collection. It's one of my favorite knits, and I always get compliments when I wear it. I knit one for my daughter. She always got compliments, and then I had to knit one for me, and I did it in that Knit Picks. It's that shiny cotton. It's like cotton with a little modal or... Oh, crazy dogs. Oh, please don't knock everything over. Please don't. Please don't knock everything over. What are they doing? Why are they running crazy? Oh my gosh. No. No, no. I love wearing it. We had to go to this charity thing for my husband's job. It was like an auction. And they called it a gala. And gala sounds just so not me. It makes me think of when I used to watch As the World Turns or Young and the Restless, and they'd have the benefit ball every year or something. I think of soap opera divas and those sequiny outfits they wear, but it wasn't that fancy. So I just wore nice jeans and some clogs and the sweater, and it looks so nice. I was really pleased with it. So anyway, it's just one of my knits I've made. I'm showing it to you. I wanted to show you the Sunset Ringer tee. That's something I do want to make soon as a summer knit. I really need to make some things that I can wear regularly here. So this looks like one of those 80s OP shirts to me. I just love it. And they had a big Lion Brand sale. I couldn't find this kind of Lion Brand at my Joann, so I was excited about it. It's Kobu, and it's cotton and bamboo. It's like a rayon from bamboo. And so this is the main color of the tee, and then you've got your contrasting blue. I'm sorry, this is all in Ziploc. We've had major moths since we've been working. The door's been open a lot. So there's contrast blue, and then this little pack of tiny mini skeins that you use for all of the sunset colors. I'm really excited to do it. That's going to be a little harder on my wrist, so as soon as I feel able, I'll get to it. But I do want to finish my two sweaters first. I want to finish at least my floozy and my Umnia first before starting that. But I just thought I'd show you because it's summery and I'm in the mood. That's Alexandra Tavel. She does a lot of things in Lion Brand yarn. And she has another one. It's a Pine Creek Ridge or Pine Ridge turtleneck or something. It's done in their Turnpike, which is not something I would normally look at and say, oh, I could knit something with this, but she makes it work. It's a color work. It looks really good. And I have some of that yarn. I just wouldn't think of a sweater with it. It looks like maybe too variegated, but I'm excited to try it in her. I think I have enough for her. It's like a super bulky too, so it'd be really fast to knit up. I know I need to show you guys images of my Strathcona, and I need a blog post on that and my Michelle socks, but you know, I'm just barely hanging in there. I have been lately. So that's really all I had to show you guys. I was gonna take part in Sophia of the Drunk Knitters Game of Thrones knit along, and what I was gonna have to do, it's a brioche a brioche cowl is what I'm thinking. It's a cowl and there's brioche, so yeah. But it's sport weight, and so I had lots of fingering weight. So I was going to hold these double. This is Raven by it's Nitpick Stroll. And this is Hawthorne Slate, so it's Hawthorne Tonal. I was going to hold this double, and then this gets held with it. This was going to be insane, all these strands going. I need to not make a mistake. This is Stranded Dyeworks. I can't remember the name of this colorway. But I thought they looked nice together, and they do. But I just did not have it in me to try that with my wrists. Holding things double and brioche and mohair that's hard to rip back, I just thought that would be really asking for it. I'm not watching Game of Thrones. I just wanted to do the thing. I've read the books. I'm never going to watch the show. I'm just going to be honest. I don't like stuff that objectifies women that much, that way. I maybe shouldn't like it at all, but I've tolerated some things, some nudity in shows, some certain situations. I'm maybe prudish that way. I don't know. I don't think I'm prudish, but I just think it's over the top. I don't like that. I don't like it what it does, the way it devalues women. So, yeah, I've read the books, but they're not as far along as the show. So maybe it's better that I'm not in there anyway, because I might hear spoilers. Probably the books, if he does finish them, will be different, but I don't know. Anyway, so Mother's Day, it's all about flooring, yay! And I told my son if he would just accompany me some other day to a town week, a couple hours drive away, where we lived when he was little. We could go on some trails and do some different things, go to the diner and have the monster burger and all that. That would be Mother's Day gift enough for me. So he said he would do it, so I'm going to hold him to it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So just leave me an answer to how you handle the stress of social media. And I'm not saying we should live without the stress of knowing what's going on or happening to the people around us at all, obviously. But like I limit the news, I have to limit some things, and now it seems I have to limit Instagram. So I wondered how you go about it, if you have any thoughts or tips. And hopefully that will be. You guys are good. You're great. This will be respectful way of talking. Have a good week.